Sam and all of our spooky squad. It is True Crime Night. I am so excited, joined by my bestie, the Queen of Texas, Keri Smith.
Hey, Mikey, I'm so excited to be here. This is my most exciting invitation ever to talk about something I geek out about. So,
And I'm so happy to have Tracy joining us of the podcast Keto and Crime. Both of their YouTube channels are in the description. Keri has an amazing new channel that she started. Go subscribe. And Tracy has an amazing podcast called Keto and Crime where they talk all about murder, horror, everything we love.
and keto.
And keto. Yeah, what's the connection, Tracy?
Okay, so I originally started as a weight loss channel because my weight has been up and down my whole life, and I eat keto as a standard. But then I talked about a true crime case on a stream one time, and it just caught off because I really like it. And they're like, "You're much better at the crime than the weight loss," which is obvious. So I just said, "Okay, I'll add crime to the title, and I'll just." Do crime. I do occasionally, talk about my walking and weight loss and stuff like that, but usually just true crime and dark history. And I do movie reviews as long as they're based on a crime. I do movie reviews.
I went on Tracy's channel to talk about Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it was like the best day of my life. Also, you guys, I should mention, we have super chats. Send in super chats if you want. Also, I'm on locals. The thing is below. I'm starting to build up my locals, so we're doing a bunch of cool stuff. We have Zoom hangouts. We have live streams, bunch of stuff I want to do, like movie night, game night, and we just have really cool people there. So you should hang out. Hi to all our friends, Shayna, Liz, Adam, Kevin. I should say thank you so much, Kevin. My horror flick guy sent me this and this for my birthday. So thank you so much for all the stuff, dude. You're the best.
Happy birthday. It's your 20th. Woo.
I love you. Exactly. It's on Thursday.
Tracy, I was going to say there's a friend in the chat named Murder Knits.
I was just going to say.
You guys should probably hook up because she does. You do keto and crime. She does knitting and crime.
Oh my God. Yes, we should definitely hook up. And I also wanted to say, I see one of my subscribers out there, Emily Narb. Hey, girl.
Oh my God, we already have super chat. Thank you so much, Murder.
Murder?
I'm here for the murder. It was the brother. Oh yeah, it was. We're going to get to that first up. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say, Murder, if my email address is on my channel, if you want to shoot me an email, or I'll come over to yours. I would love to talk to you sometime.
Yes. So first of all, I should ask you guys, what is your favorite true crime case ever?
Ever?
Mm-hmm. Your favorite murder? It feels kind of bad to say your favorite murder, but your favorite murder.
Well, it's more of a cult case, but Jim Jones and the People's Temple, I did a 5-parter on that. And it literally, I love it. I grew up devouring anything about it. And one of my favorite horror movies it was based on those murders. So I love.
What was it? The Ritual? I think it was called?
Yes, the Ritual.
That's good.
Yeah.
So mine, just one that I tend to become obsessed with the ones that aren't solved sometimes. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people do, right? And there was one in Texas a few years ago that I still wonder about. It was the Missy Beavers case.
Oh,
yeah. You know that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she was big into Thrive, which is sort of like a Herbalife. It's one of those supplements you take. I used to do Thrive. It's like a
lot of those people are
powder and patch and all that. Yeah. And just like, interestingly enough, there's a lot of true crime that involves Thrive because Chris Watts, who murdered his wife, Shanann Watts, she was big into Thrive. Anyway, Miss Beavers, she did workout fitness classes at her church in the mornings, and she sold Thrive, and she was always online. And one morning at the church, someone came in when she was setting up before one of her classes. They have footage of this person on camera wearing a full police SWAT outfit, uniform, and helmet, so you can't tell if they're male or female. and there's even debate over people trying to figure out the height, if it's a woman or not, came in, walked around. You can see them on security footage walking around the church, and ended up murdering her, and they've never solved it. And there's a lot of intricacies to that case that probably, Tracy, that make it really just.
We should get into this one.
Well, no, you've got a huge list. Are we going to hit your top?
I only have a few because you guys said so. So I thought, for you guys watching, I thought what we would do is that we each have different ones that we're more familiar with. So I figure each of us could take the lead on that. There's some that you guys told me that I kind of intentionally didn't look up because I figure we could get our first reactions now. Also, I should mention this weekend is Myth Informed. So come hang out with me and Keri, Fort Worth, Texas. April 23rd. It's going to be amazing. I'm hosting it. Keri is moderating half the panels. It's going to be amazing. James Lindsay, Blair, Lauren Southern, who I'm super excited to meet.
Lots of interesting speakers.
Yes. So link is below. So come hang out with us. It'll be fun. So should we get started? I'm thinking first up is my favorite murder, JonBenet Ramsey.
Oh, yeah.
So
why does this one fascinate you? Because it's unsolved, or?
I think there's something intriguing to me in general about things that are so, I don't know. It's like a weird dichotomy of it being really complicated, but really simple. You know what I mean? Things that seem to be so obvious that no one acknowledges. So I guess here I have my notes here. So to fill you guys in the background. So for anyone who doesn't know, JonBenet Ramsey, little pageant girl. What was she, 5, I think?
5.
Passed away.
Yeah.
It was Christmas morning, middle of the night, big snowstorm in Denver. Parents wake up, supposedly, place a call to 911 that their daughter's been kidnapped. We got to talk about the ransom note. Let me, I have it.
The ransom note. No. Yeah, you're right. When things get overly complicated and you're like, somebody's trying to weave a story.
The fact whomever wrote it knew the exact amount of the bonus that the father had just gotten for Christmas.
Oh my God, I'm going to sound like a friggin' idiot. How do you screen share?
I'm not familiar with this platform. So
down at the bottom, there should be a little computer screen. It just says share.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wait, you should see me. First time I shared on Streamlab, it was horrible.
Talk for a sec while I get this.
Well, okay. Well, while you're pulling that up, somebody asked, "What year was she killed?" Oh, hey, Ellen Scott. Are you talking? I'm not sure if he's talking about JonBenet or Missy Beavers.
I want to say it was 93. Was JonBenet?
JonBenet.
Yeah. It
was the early 90s.
Was it 93? Because I remember when I was a little kid, it was like the story was everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna
it was 96.
96. I knew it was in the 90s. I did a video on it. I should know that, but I knew it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Damn it. Sorry. I'm always having computer trouble.
Oh, you're fine. Well, while you're pulling that up, do you want me to tell you a little more about Missy Beavers? 2 of the interesting things.
Wait, do you want to get it after here? I figure, sorry, it's giving me problems, so I'm just gonna read it on here. So keep in mind, daughter's is apparently kidnapped. They wake up, and on the staircase is this a 1,000,000-page ransom note. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country it serves. At this time, we have... First of all, just that part. At this time, we have your daughter. Well, maybe in a little bit, maybe around lunchtime, we'll change our minds. But at this time, we have your daughter.
Foreign faction is interested in a mid-sized tech company in Boulder, Colorado.
Really?
I mean, come on. I mean, that's what he owned.
Yeah, that's what. So she means who's we respect your business and.
Yeah.
at the summary of your daughter, she is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. Does this happen in real life, that anyone cares about which dollar amounts they get?
The only thing I can say is if somebody asks for something for them to be non-sequential bills, so that you can't trace the serial numbers, and not to have any like ink bags in it, but that would be the only thing. I don't think anybody specifies what kind of money.
To me, it sounds like somebody who is trying to put themselves in the shoes of a kidnapper. Like we represent an organization of individuals, an adequate sized attaché. It sounds like someone who is acting a role, and they're trying to imagine how would a group of shadowy kidnappers write this. And so that's why the language is like clunky and weird, because they're not being themselves. Whoever's writing it, they're trying to put themselves in the shoes of somebody who doesn't exist, in my opinion.
So someone asked, didn't handwriting experts say it was one of the parents? So handwriting ruled out. So here's the interesting part. So first of all, it was written on a pad from inside the house, from the mother's pad. The experts ruled out the father, but they said it was inconclusive with the mother. It looked a lot like the mother's handwriting.
Yes.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in an immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for a proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Is it just me, or does this not sound like very feminine language? It's kind of emotional, feeling they don't like you.
They don't like you. They're going to do bad things if you don't comply
Burial.
to this 100%.
Yeah.
Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police or FBI, will result in your daughter being beheaded. Now they're really trying to sell it. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned, we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC.
Yeah. Again, it sounds like someone who is putting themselves in the role of a character that they've cobbled together from TV shows and like Matlock and stuff.
Crime too.
Yes. Yes. It sounds just like, don't try to, you're not the only fat cat around here. It's like, what TV have you been watching? Nobody talks like that.
Well, that's
like whoever wrote it was extremely pissed off at John Ramsey. So maybe.
Well, what's interesting, the Ramseys were apparently very big movie fans. They had movie posters already all over their house, and they found that like specific lines from this ransom note were directly lifted out of a bunch of movies.
You're kidding!
Wow. Keri, I think Speed was one of them. Because these are things that nobody says in real life.
Yeah, because in Speed, he said, "Don't grow a brain" when he was talking to Keanu Reeves.
I think Harry was "Don't try to grow a brain." But so think about this. So basically, what the whole thing comes down to is there are three possibilities. There are two. Okay, no, there are three. Either the parents did it, her brother, how old was he? About 10, I think. Her brother Bert did it.
He was 10.
Or, according to them, some magical, mystical intruder came into the house in the middle of the night. There were no footprints in the snow. So imagine though, like somebody comes into your house to abduct your daughter in the middle of the night. They know it was written in the house. So it's the middle of the night. You have what would probably be like a noisy little girl with you that you're trying to like get out of there. You're really going to sit there writing this like long rambling thing about he doesn't like you and making conversation and written for this would take like a half hour to write this thing.
Yep.
Plus she wasn't kidnapped. I mean, they found her body in the house.
Yeah.
So why is someone writing that?
So that's the thing. So they then once they call the police immediately, which is another red flag because they said don't call police. You would think it would at least be questionable to them. They invite all their friends over the house, and then they ended up finding the girl dead in the basement.
Yep. And it was the father and his best friend, the same friend that they had been over to their house the day before, which was Christmas, and they partied into the night, went down, picked her up, brought her out, and like literally laid her down in the foyer to the house where all the foot traffic was, therefore contaminating any DNA that might have been lifted from her body because they just put her down where there was all kinds of fingerprints and DNA everywhere, and basically contaminated the murder scene. And why were all these people? There were people there just hanging out. There were the Ramseys, their friends. Why? The police should have secured the house, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've always leaned toward it's either Patsy or Burke. I think that it was a crime of passion. I think they lost their temper and they killed her. And then that was a cover-up. But
for me, I definitely don't think I definitely 100% think it was the brother. He had a history of being weird to her. He was probably very jealous because she was clearly the one getting all the attention. There were incidents where he would like shit on her bed. He would rip up her Christmas presents. And so there are videos out there of him being they wouldn't speak to the police for what, a month or 2 months, something like that. So there are videos of Burke being interrogated not interrogated, but questioned by the child psychologist. And his demeanor is very strange. They ask him, are you afraid that whoever... When I was a kid and heard about this story, I was afraid that they were going to come get me. So they ask him, are you afraid he's going to come back for you? No. They're like, do you miss your sister? Oh, I'm just getting on with my life.
Yeah.
Like, could not care less. But what's really interesting, I think, so apparently the one big piece of evidence was that with the autopsy, they found pineapple in her system that was undigested. So it came from shortly before she was killed. That contradicts everything the family said, that they never got up, that she was just sleeping. So the interesting thing is when Burke was being questioned, it's on video. They show him a photo of pineapple in a bowl and they ask him, what is this? He was like crawling off his seat and wouldn't answer, and took him a minute and was like, because parents probably told him.
Probably told him what?
That don't talk about the pineapple. She never got up. She never ate this, because they probably knew it was like at that point. I think this was probably a year or two later, that was a big piece of evidence.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've always thought it was either Burke, maybe she took his pineapple and he just snapped on her, or she also had a bedwetting problem that Patsy was very frustrated with. And, she was supposed to be Patsy's perfect little pageant girl. I suspected she may have wet the bed and Patsy lost her shit. I've always suspected it's one of the two.
What's interesting too, by the way, so the detective who was there that day said, when the 10 a.m. deadline hit, no one acknowledged it. The parents didn't say anything. It was never mentioned.
Well, because again, the entire note is crazy. Whoever wrote the note knew that she was dead. So why write the note? If it were a stranger or someone who broke in the middle of the night and murdered this little girl, there's no reason for them to stay and write a note like that to try and, because they know they're leaving the body there and whatever. The only people I could imagine writing it are the parents.
Yeah.
And because maybe they thought they could cover this up. Like you said, maybe it was the brother, maybe it was one of them. They thought they could cover it up because they viewed it as an accident or whatever. But they didn't have time to. But maybe in the panic after doing this, it was like, let's come up with a story. We can say she's missing, and they sat down and wrote this. But no killer who breaks into the house is going to sit down and write something like that. It's just absurd.
And also, the family was very wealthy, so they probably, and it's a small town, so someone like that is a bigger deal than they would be in a big city. So they kind of were able to do certain things. I think. Well, I had a point. I forget what it was, but what were you saying, Tracy?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with what you and Keri had both said, that they were wealthy. Boulder was at that time a very small college town, and very inept police department. And I think the Ramseys influenced the police quite a bit, because there was a lot of stuff that wouldn't happen if somebody was murdered in either one of our houses. Police would not let a bunch of people be there. They would clear out the house as soon as they got there. They would not automatically exempt the parents from investigation. There was just too much going on there.
What I was going to say too is there's this one guy who was, I don't think he worked on the case, but I feel like he was probably hired by the family. But there's this one guy who for years was going on all the TV shows and stuff trying to say that it was an intruder because there's some sort of, what would you call it? Not a gate, but that thing where you like a gate that comes out of the floor and you crawl, or I guess it was a window. It was a window from the basement that you crawl up through. So he was trying to say that he could fit through it. And he did this very dramatic demonstration crawling into it. But what he didn't mention is that they have photos from that day. It was covered in cobwebs. None of them were broken, which it would have been if somebody had crawled in there. No footprints in the snow. One thing I wanted to mention, let me know, anyone in the chat, if you know any more information about this. One thing I kind of couldn't verify, that it seems like there are so many conflicting reports of whether or not she was sexually abused. Some say she was, some say she wasn't, some say it was inconclusive. So it's hard to find out what the truth is.
With all the reports I read, I go with inconclusive because no one ever came back with any. Now, there was the case of the gentleman, I want to say he played Santa Claus in the local area and that was obsessed with her and had an article of her clothing somehow that she had given him, and that was weird. But you also have to
said she was.
Yeah. But she was a pageant champion, which if you grew up in the South, Midwest, pageants are a thing and it's breeding ground for pedos. But this girl, she was sexualized from a young age. So it didn't really surprise me that she had adult admirers. But
Murder and It's Also Santa Claus was cleared.
Yeah. No, I knew that Santa Claus was cleared, but they tried to bring up that maybe it was him. And yeah, I just don't. I know it was a huge house, but I don't think that anybody could have been in there and silent for enough time to be able to do this. And I know there was an open house at the property not long before Christmas, but I just don't see somebody hiding out in a house that long.
Again, and if they did, why write the note?
Yeah, just do what you want to do and leave.
Yeah, why write that note? And why would the parents write it if it was some strange person?
Yeah.
And I think the parents definitely, they say, well, they feel like they always have to say with handwriting analysis that things are inconclusive, that it's not an exact science. But if you go and look at that note and you look at Patsy Ramsey's handwriting, it looks like her writing, except she's trying to write print instead of cursive, which she usually wrote cursive. But if you look at the R's, the capital R's, and there are other letters that are very similar, the A's, the way that she writes them, that it's like, okay, you can say inconclusive, but I'm pretty sure. That's my opinion anyway, that she wrote it.
Wait, what was the comment I was looking for? Yeah, Santa's definitely creepy but clear. So the thing is, though, years later, probably over a decade later, the police department, who's done so many shady things. Oh, also, before that, there was a grand jury that they were going to indict the parents. We didn't find out until years later, but the grand jury voted to charge the parents. The district attorney hid that and just dropped it. Why? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the specific charge was child endangerment, which is much more plausible than saying they definitively murdered her.
Yeah.
Also, hey, thank you. Family murders. What's that? What's TOTDT?
If you look at cases like Ramsey, if you look at the Menendez brothers, if you look at
we'll get to that.
The rich kid, the rich guy, I can't think of the name of it, that strangled the girl in broad daylight in New York City.
Who was that?
It was a long time. It was like in the 80s, but there was a rash of these murders in the 80s and 90s where it was wealthier people that just got away. It was just unbelievable, the stuff that they got away with. And it's just money. Money talks.
What I was going to say, by the way, so years later, good decade later, they suddenly announce that they've cleared the entire family with DNA evidence. But then when you look at the DNA, it's barely anything that it's been said it could have just come from. It was on her underwear, and they said it could have come from the manufacturing. It could have come from somebody touching it and touching something else. So it seems like that shouldn't be enough to like clear the entire family.
No.
The only way I could see any sort of intruder theory making sense is if... Have you ever seen that movie? What was it called? That Helen Hunt movie where someone's living in their house without them knowing?
Yeah.
I See You?
I think that was the premise of Black Christmas, too. The dude hiding in the wall.
Yeah. The original Black Christmas. Oh,
Maybe
God.
Billy did it.
Yeah, but would some wall dweller sit and write a note? Again, no.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that happening in 1996?
Guys, the person under the stairs, they're not going to sit down and write a note like, bring in a taché, you money bags and fat cat.
Yeah, they're just going to...
Too is that in the note, very common words were misspelled, but then big words like attaché or something like that was spelled perfectly. So it was definitely someone trying to disguise their handwriting. Did you guys see, though, when Burke went on Dr. Phil?
Yeah.
I've seen it, but it's been a while.
Painful.
Can you recap?
It was pain. I felt sorry for the guy. He's obviously, autistic and
He's
very
awkward
and socially
joking.
awkward.
Yeah, but he's laughing and just takes it very... Yeah. They all seemed to take it very lightly. Like, if they wouldn't cooperate with the police for a long time. I think it took them months. I mean, if somebody kills your daughter... You're not going to cooperate with the police?
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, if you didn't do it, just to play devil's advocate, if you didn't do it and they're trying to make a case against you, I have no idea. Your lawyer may say, don't talk to them.
Yeah, but I feel like they only became suspects afterwards,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still. That doesn't ring as suspicious to me on its face, because what would an innocent person do if they're the focus of an investigation? They probably would stop talking. Also,
yeah, I've had police officer friends tell me don't ever talk to the cops. Just lawyer up. Yeah.
Oh, also, hi, Ragamuffin.
Ragamuffin asked, what did you miss? I'll tell you, somebody in the chat said, are you guys going to CrimeCon? I'm not, but it's in Vegas. I think it was in Austin last time. It's in Vegas, April 29th through May 1st. And I know that's where you are. So maybe you could go and do a report.
Yes. Oh my God, that would be amazing. By the way, I really wanted to go. So we're going to be in Texas this weekend, in Fort Worth. In Fort Worth, like the next weekend is a big horror convention, and Nev Campbell is going to be there. I was like, oh, I want to go, but I don't think I could like justify spending the money to stay an extra week.
I'm going to make it to CrimeCon one of these years. I haven't ever been able to go.
I didn't know that was a
for
thing.
Finances and reasons. Yeah, it's I would have to pay to go. I'm not at the level where I would be invited to go. So for financial reasons, I haven't been able to go. But one of these years, I'm going to make it.
They need to put it in Tennessee.
Yeah, they do.
Next time.
So yeah, I feel like we'll probably never get any definitive answers on this, but I think it seems like the father wasn't him. I don't see the mother that was their cash cow, but I could definitely see the brother, especially he was already resentful of her. He was already lashing out at her. He's already acting strange. I think it was an accident, though. Yeah. I think he probably hit her with something and didn't realize it, and so they covered it up.
There was an instance where he had hit her with a golf club. It was a couple of years prior, out of anger. So that did happen, and then there was the instances of him defecating on her stuff and stuff like that. So he had issues with her. Now, I had issues with my brother too, but I wouldn't have killed him. I hope he wouldn't have killed me. He might have if he ever had the chance. But yeah, it was.
Someone said any lawyer will tell you not to talk to police. I agree, but I just feel it's different when it's your daughter being kidnapped and murdered. But maybe not.
But with their social status and their wealth, I'm pretty sure that they probably had lawyers there before they had the police there, or at least right away.
Kidnapping. None of it makes any sense.
Well, there is a 911 tape. Now, I'm not sure how accurate it is. Nitz might be able to tell us more about it, where you can sort of hear Patsy in the background talking to someone else that's not John, telling him to not talk to her right now. She does, and that they suspect it might have been Burke. Even though she said Burke was asleep in his bed the whole time. But I don't know how accurate those are, even if they're legitimate. But there was somebody that tried to amplify those, and you can distinctly hear it. But you can also fake a lot with.
Yeah, I saw that they did this CBS documentary. So I saw that, and I heard exactly what they were saying, but I don't know if that was just the power of suggestion that I heard it because they said that that's what it was.
Right.
I feel like if they would have said something else, you would have heard that too. So, yeah, I feel very certain it was the brother. What about you, Keri? Any final JonBenet thoughts?
Well, just that it's someone in the family, and they tried to cover it up because they didn't want it getting outside the family, and they must have felt that it was an accident and it wouldn't do any good for whoever did it, whether it was the son or one of them, to go to prison for it, and they decided collectively to cover it up. But there's no way. I don't buy any intruder theory. I don't buy any person hiding in the house theory or anything that's in that ridiculous ransom note, because she wasn't even kidnapped. It's the note itself. The fact that there is a crazy note like that when her body is downstairs the whole time, that tells me somebody in that house knows what happened.
What do you think, Tracy?
I think it's either Patsy or the brother. I stand by that theory. I have no idea. What the final missing link is. Patsy's dead. Burke isn't going to talk about it. And I honestly think if there was an innocent person in the house, it was probably John. But in the end, he probably helped cover it up, But
yeah, Murder Nits gives her theory in the chat. She says they already lost their daughter and they probably didn't want to lose their son. Also, a killer son makes the family look like shit.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I kind of have sympathy for the parents. I could understand their thought process with that, but oh my God, though, Tracy. So I was on Keri's channel today, and someone in the chat went to college with Burke.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if she knew him, but if you're watching and you did, I gotta go back and find her.
There's Cheeky Mare.
If you knew him, come on the channel.
Yeah, I knew.
What I would give for 10 minutes with him. Give me 10 minutes. I will seduce him. I will get it all out of him.
Even Dr. Phil even came out in defense of him and said he's obviously on the spectrum. He's very socially awkward. And that was just him dealing, that he didn't get the idea. Of course, it depends on how much you trust Dr. Phil.
Not at all.
But, but he was defending him.
I've become obsessed with hate watching Dr. Phil. Biggest scumbag on the face. No matter what it is, no matter what the situation is, watch Dr. Phil, and whoever is in the right in that situation will never be right in his eyes. He just turns everything around. He's a big Darvo person. Yeah, that guy sucks. Oh, we got to do a Dr. Phil stream. I just love this comment so much. I thought it was the butler in the kitchen with the camera. So yeah, it's oh my god, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was this CBS documentary about JonBenet. It was the most fucked up thing I'd ever seen. So they were speculating that Burke had hit her with a flashlight, and that's what did it. But they wanted to know if a little kid his age would have had the strength to do that. So they built a skull of JonBenet, put a little blonde wig on it, and brought little boys in to bludgeon it with a flashlight.
Well,
I'm like, who thought this was a good idea?
Who thinks of this? I mean, I study some pretty messed up shit, but no.
Yeah, those blood spatter experts, they call them experts. And again, just like with the handwriting analysis, I know they always say this is inconclusive, but they will do things like that to see, well, what's the splatter pattern like? And, you know, they did that with that case you mentioned earlier, the Michael Peterson case, the guy that they made in Durham, North Carolina, whose wife died, and he said she fell down this staircase and there was just blood everywhere. And there's a docu-series about that one called The Staircase. And they brought in this expert and did similar kinds of things to see, you know, how would it splatter? But I don't know how much truth is in that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say we should talk about that one. Before we do, if anyone has any final JonBenet thoughts in the chat or anything. So Burke, you think Burke or Brother Tracy?
I'm gonna say Patsy.
Ooh.
Let's talk about The Staircase. So I don't know all that much. So I had watched the series, but I only saw like the first 2/3 of it or something. I didn't see the end. It seemed to me so insanely obvious that he did it, but then from talking to people, I heard apparently he was innocent or he was clear. Yeah. So it seems like, at least at the time that I was watching it, all of my friends were very resolute on the fact that he was innocent, which seems insane to me, but you guys probably know the case better than I do.
Do you know about that one, Tracy? I know a little about it.
I don't know much about this one. That's what I'm going to have to look up. I'll be quite honest.
Well, he did it.
like he fell down the stairs and there was blood like you've
there's blood all over everywhere. It's like that doesn't happen from falling down the stairs. It's up the walls. Yeah. She clearly had her head bashed in by something.
Well, yeah, unless she fell on a bunch of knives or something.
Right, but his absolute narcissism. He invites a documentary filmmaker to come and make this documentary of the whole leading up to the trial. So this filmmaker's with him every day. And there's this amazing footage because he was such a narcissist. It made me think of O.J. Simpson writing the book, If I Did It, where they have a need they think they can con you. It's also like the Green Beret murderer. What's his name? And there was a book written about that one. And he invited the true crime author to come with him and do this whole book on him. And the book even the author is like, he doesn't realize he's revealing all of this stuff. In his narcissism, he thinks he can con me, the writer.
It's like Jeffrey McDonald, one of the original Family Annihilators, the doctor.
That's the one. That's the one I mean. Yeah.
He invited the writer who turned on him, who realized he was full of shit while he was interviewing him, and wrote a very scathing book.
And you guys, I forgot about this. She was the second wife that fell down the stairs.
Yes.
What did you say, by the way? It is my absolute opinion that in murder, in politics, there is no such thing as a coincidence.
No.
Or very rarely.
Oh, so they dug into his past, and so go back to Michael Peterson for a second. And you're right. Thank you, Tracy. That's what, when I said Green Beret Killer, I was thinking of Jeffrey McDonald. And he had that same thing. His narcissism was like, let me write a whole book about how innocent I am and have this person come with me on this documentary, experience. Michael Peterson did the same thing. They film it, and he reveals so much during the course of the filming, so much of his personality. It comes out during the course of the investigation that he had these secret love affairs with men. He was online arranging sex with men.
Prostitutes, I think.
Male prostitutes in some cases.
I used to know one of them. Not because of any. No.
It's a service. You're just paying for a service. Don't even be embarrassed.
He hates me now, but I think I should get him on. No, bro. I'm out of his league.
Anyway, are you going to invite that guy on the show?
He's like a crazy liberal and hates me now, but he's the one who testified.
Okay, yeah, there was a male prostitute who testified at that. So he tries to, after she's dead, first of all, he's living off of her wealth. Okay, he's a writer. He's living off of her wealth. He's having all these affairs with men behind her back. He tries to say, after she's dead and can't speak for herself, once this comes out, first he denies it. There's even a scene in the staircase where his lawyers are telling him about how this has been uncovered. And you should watch that scene because he's like, oh, really? Oh, did he? Because they're telling him, yeah, there's this male prostitute who's going to go on the record and say that you had this relationship. He's like, huh, really? I wonder if people will believe that. Like he doesn't deny it, but he doesn't say it's true because he's sitting there waiting to see which card to play next. And he eventually decides to play the card that like, oh, she knew about these relationships and we had an open marriage and she was cool with it. And everyone that knew her, including her kids, her friends, they were like, no way did she know about this.
No. The family was split, I think, with the kids, that some were with him and some. So can you guys explain? I don't know everything about it. Why were people so resolute in him being innocent? He seems so guilty.
I didn't know people were resolute in him being innocent. You're the first person to tell me that.
From the way that people I knew were talking about it, I had just assumed that he had been exonerated or something.
Well, no, he was eventually. So he was convicted, and then I think it was overturned. Let me look it up. But that doesn't. I don't care about what the court decided. This guy is guilty as shit.
No, but they were acting like he was innocent. So are we missing something?
No, let me tell Mikey.
That's what I thought, but
no. Okay, so he had all these secret gay relationships behind her back. His first girlfriend or friend, she also died from a mysterious fall down the staircase, and then he adopted her children. And those are the children who are still standing with him. But Kathy Peterson, his wife, her kids are not standing with him. So they're split. But if you watch him talk about the night, there's a part in the documentary where he talks about what they did that night. And he's walking the cameraman through the house and he's pontificating about, and he doesn't, if you listen to his language, he doesn't say, we watched a movie. We came out here outside. We sat by the pool. He doesn't speak in the past tense about something that actually happened. He speaks in this past perfect tense. He says, well, normally we would watch a movie. And so we probably did that. And then we would have come out by the pool and we would have sat here. Yeah. You don't use language like that unless you're constructing something false. I don't care what you would have normally done, right, Peterson. What did you do that night? Like, what did you do that night? I'm
definitely going to have to look into this case. It sounds very similar to one in South Carolina, very similar. The Murdaughs.
I don't know that one.
Alex Murdaugh. He's in prison he's in jail right now on a $7 million bond. But his wife and son were killed on their estate, on this huge estate, mysteriously. A few months before, that same son had been involved in a drunk boating accident that killed a local teenager. A young lady. There's also a housekeeper that conveniently fell down steps and is dead. And there was the murder of a young gay man in another area of South Carolina that may or may not have had ties to the one of the older sons too. And this is a very old South Carolina family. They've been in politics there for a long time. In fact, their family's like one of the founders of the town. Look up Alex Murdaugh. It's
how do you spell the last name?
Murdaughh.
What I wanted to say also, some people were saying in the chat, I vaguely remember this from the show, is that they were saying that an owl killed the wife, the most recent wife. Like she had a head injury from an owl and then fell. Because I think their rationale for that was that it looked like an owl, like the marking on her looked like an owl, but...
I'm sorry. I get really passionate. I'm sorry. I was yelling.
No, good. That's what we want.
And I love you, Two Sisters in Some Yarn, but he did this.
Owl just seems far-fetched.
I'm sorry.
I understand what they're saying though, because I remember watching the show and I was like, oh, an owl did it.
I'm going to look up how many people are killed by owls.
Okay, so he did. I just looked up what happened. So he was found guilty after 8 years. Oh, and his wife's name was Kathleen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after 8 years, he was granted a new trial. After the judge ruled a critical prosecution witness gave misleading testimony, and I have to go look up what that was. So then when
I think it might have been the one I used to know.
Oh, okay. So then before the second trial, he submitted an Alford plea and to a reduced charge of manslaughter. And so instead of going through the second trial, they accepted that plea. Alford plea is when you say, I'm going to say I'm guilty, but I didn't really do it.
But I'm contending my innocence.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they said,
it's wishy-washy.
Okay, he was sentenced to time already served and then freed. So he is out. 2 dead wives who fell down staircases, and this guy's out.
Oh, evidently the owl theory is huge on the
Reddit,
on the subreddit for this case. I'm looking at it right now. But owl attacks are actually fairly rare according to statistics. So it's like
Alan Scott he's putting up the owls are not what they seem from Twin Peaks. I appreciate it, sir, but it was not an owl.
No, but a lot of people were very convinced. Like I saw Sean Hannity interviewing him, speaking like he's this wrongly accused man. It's very strange.
Go watch.
I'm dry to me.
Go watch the documentary, and if anybody can come away from that docuseries thinking he's innocent, I'm shocked, because he is a master manipulator, master narcissist. Everything's about him, his image. Everything's about his fame. What are you laughing at?
I think
I'm dying. Grady. If it was the owl, it would give a whole new meaning to who did it. I love Grady. The owl did it.
I'm now seeing that little mechanical owl from the original Clash of the Titans, Boo Boo. That's what I'm seeing now.
So yeah, I think he did it too. I'm excited to watch the rest of it though. Now I have to see it, because then they added like a new chapter to it a couple years ago.
They did, yeah. I don't think I've seen the new chapter. Yeah. I just saw the original one. But again, just to even bring in this person, this documentary filmmaker, hey, I'm being tried for the tragic death of my wife. Let me get a documentary filmmaker here to capture me while I pontificate. He's also like does all those things that people do, those little behavior things that with the glasses and stuff to make you think he's this studious, like intellectual. And Tracy's laughing.
Like, who was it?
He's just a fake.
Who was it? I think it was not Casey Anthony. Who's the other one? The one who stabbed her boyfriend.
Jodi Arias.
Jodi Arias was this slut hoe, and then in court she put on the glasses and just like changed her whole appearance.
I did a 3-parter on that case. If you want to go watch everybody, it's over on my case.
I'm gonna have to see it.
Somebody just brought up the Tiger King. So, which I'm so over this friggin' like I watched it, and we had nothing better to do. But I was shocked, really. Another one that at the reaction from a lot of people to this, that there were so many people saying, I mean, I don't know if they said Joe Exotic was innocent, but they wanted him out of jail or something. I'm like, did we watch a different show? Because Joe Exotic is exactly where he belongs. He would just... what he did to those men, that he would find these mentally ill, drug-addicted, homeless, downtrodden young men, would get them hooked on drugs, would manipulate them, would abuse them. I mean, this is abuse. I think at least one killed himself. It might have been more, I don't remember. But he is just the scum of the earth.
What?
Did you watch The Tiger King?
Yes.
I made it through one episode. I couldn't. I just couldn't. And I love like trash TV. I love reality TV, but I could not make it through that.
Okay, so I agree with you about what he did to young troubled men. He absolutely groomed these men. He gave them drugs to keep them in relationships with him. Bad moral character. But compared to Carol Baskins, she straight up murdered her husband. And I believe she did. Allegedly. Should I just say allegedly so it doesn't get taken down? And I don't think and they set him up for that murder. That murder plot was ridiculous. They totally set him up for that. Yes, I don't believe that for a second. It was that even the guy who ended up going the hitman. It admitted he ended up rescinding his testimony and said that the other guy put him up to say that, and all of that I think was just manufactured. But yes, he took advantage of young guys.
I think I've never put too much thought into that because I feel like the world is just a better place with Joe Exotic in prison. I was just like, he deserves it no matter what. Which, no, I'm not saying that's a good thing to think that. Like, so I've never even really considered like the facts of the actual what he's actually there for.
Oh, somebody says Tiger King is cringe. Yeah, but it's also I couldn't Therese, yes, Keri. My husband does not watch trash TV normally. He's always watching history and art documentaries and really interesting stuff. And it's like, watch this with me. And then every once in a while I'll get him to watch something just brain like junk food that like and so he didn't want to watch the Tiger King. But I said, just let me show you this first episode. So it's a really interesting thing in the first episode. And then he was hooked after that first one and watch. You have to admit, I mean, you didn't finish it, Tracy, so maybe you don't have to admit, but smart, I thought it was pretty entertaining.
I tried. I really tried. I mean, and I'm a huge fan of reality TV. The Biggest Loser is one of my favorite shows. Survivor. I love 1,000 Pound Sisters, the two sisters that started on YouTube. The Slaytons. I love those kinds of shows, but I could not get into that.
We got to talk about Survivor one day.
I love Survivor.
Oh, apparently, I tell you.
Apparently, our junk food reality TV doesn't overlap. You and I have completely distinct spheres of what we watch because I haven't seen any of those.
Do you guys know the other day I'd never seen a second of it before, but they have this new show now, which is the same show. I watched for the very first time about 15 minutes of the friggin' Kardashians.
Oh,
I don't get the appeal.
Me either. I wouldn't.
I get it with other stuff like the Housewives or the whatever, like a train wreck.
Real Housewives of Atlanta. I love Nene.
Oh, New York. Not now, but when Bethany was on, I loved New York. But like, I don't understand the appeal of the Kardashians. Like, they're not crazy enough to be trashy. They're not anything. They're just boring. They're just the most boring, basic people on this earth.
Yeah.
I don't get the appeal. Sorry, tangent, but.
Okay, so back to true crime.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say, here's a case we kind of the world has just forgotten about, but did you guys watch Making a Murderer?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought they were both innocent. How about you?
Okay. You go first, Tracy.
I'm gonna kind of probably ride the fence on that. I don't know. I know they came off very sympathetic, and I wanted to believe them, but do I actually believe them? I don't know.
Same thing. When I first watched the docuseries, I thought they're innocent. However, since then, after reading other information, it's been a while. I'm not prepared to talk about that one actually because
same. I just thought of it,
but I no longer think that. I mean, people can go in with a documentary with a point of view. In fact, most of the time they do. And the person who's most notorious for that is Michael Moore. And they can paint a picture of what they want, the story they want to tell in docu-series format. And in retrospect, I think that the directors of that series had a narrative and they went in to show that, and they left out things that didn't build that narrative. So I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm more of I do love documentaries where they just turn on the camera and let it roll. Jesus Camp and Kidnap for Christ, two of the best examples of that. They just let the camera roll. They did not have an agenda. Those were two well-made documentaries.
Yes.
I thought with them, it was just handled so horribly that I think, aside from innocence, I feel like they were both not guilty, especially what they did with Brendan Dassey, the kid. If you watch the interrogation, it was so horrible that I felt like they shouldn't be in prison. Like, we'll never know if they did it or not. But on a side note, DR said, "Oh snap! They dropped the mask mandates for most airlines." They did, but again, I'm skeptical.
Well, some of the airlines have already come out and said that they're still going to enforce the masks.
So I'm happy about that, but what changes? Oh,
airplanes have filtration systems anyway, isn't it?
Wait, is this true? This I didn't know. American, Delta, United, Southwest, and Alaska. I knew Alaska did. All made them optional today. Did they?
That's
I hadn't heard that. That'd be amazing if it's right before I have to fly. So you had mentioned earlier, this is one I feel strongly about, the Menendez brothers. Are you guys familiar with that?
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tracy? So for people who don't know, they're watching, these were two brothers, very rich. I think they were in Beverly Hills, who murdered their parents after years of sexual abuse by the father. Mother turned a blind eye to it. What do you guys think?
They did it.
Yeah.
But I think they were both very mentally disturbed. Now, I'm also going to say that probably the want to inherit all their father's money had something to do with it as well. But yeah, they were abused. I mean, it's pretty sad.
The footage of that, the courtroom footage of that is just gut-wrenching. And for anyone who's not aware, yeah, they did it. They tried to cover it up. But what came out during the trial, which was very hard for them to talk about, this is how, when you watch people tell stories of past abuse, I've since seen people try to copy what happened in the Menendez trial. Casey Peterson is Casey Anthony. Sorry, Casey Anthony is a great example. She tried to, in her trial, say that her father she'd suffered years of sexual abuse from her father. No. Lies. You tried to use something that was very real, that was hard for these guys to talk about. And the older brother, Lyle, not only did they both open up about the sexual abuse they faced at the hands of their father, but Lyle admitted that he took his brother out to the woods and molested his little brother in the same way that his dad did to them. It's horrible. And I'm sorry, it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because they were so, just to relive that on the stand and talk about it, you could tell it was awful for them to bring that up. And so, yeah, they did it, and I'm not excusing it, but I
am.
I understand why that tragedy unfolded. And then you look at something like Casey Anthony, which is completely opposite. It's just a narcissistic, evil person murdering her daughter and then trying to make up a defense and trying to ape something that was very real that happened to these brothers that made me so disgusted.
So Adam said, I always think of Ben Stiller's parody whenever I see those guys. That is exactly what I thought initially. That was my first exposure to this case. I thought they were these scary, evil, horrible people who murdered their parents in cold blood. And then I found out the actual facts. So maybe you're not excusing it. I'm 100% excusing it. I think if you you molest your children, you turn a blind eye to your husband molesting the children, I don't care what happens to you. So for me, I think this is one of the most horrific miscarriages of justice. They're still in prison to this day. I think they'll be there forever. They don't get to see each other. I think they've seen each other once in 30-something years.
They were briefly in the same prison, but they were kept on different sides of it. And to me, that was even more cruel than keeping them in separate prisons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And the thing is, when, like Keri said, when you look at them on the stand and telling them, there's just no doubt in my mind. Like, they are telling the absolute truth. You can feel their word. It's horrible. And I think, in my opinion, not just in this, I think there is a difference in how we perceive abuse towards men versus women. I think people, especially back then, did not want to hear it, did not want to face, did not want to reckon with any reality of abuse.
I mean, I was a kid when that happened, and I remember just being told they were narcissistic, stuck-up kids that just wanted their parents' money. They were greedy, 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 greedy. And I didn't really delve into it until much, much later, you know, and then realized what exactly had happened, because so much of that was hidden, you know, from the general public.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything about that just infuriates me. I'm like you, the way in which they portrayed it in the media at the time, it was just these skull digging brothers, and they were just out for their parents' money. And then when you actually go back and look at that footage, and they did not want to talk about that, but they did. And it'll make you cry. It's like horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. Nobody thinks men can get abused. And I think it says a lot that even to this day, there has never been any sort of campaign or any sort of awareness to be like, they don't belong in prison, get them out of prison. Nothing. Silence about this.
But Casey Anthony roams free. Michael Peterson roams free. You know,
OJ's free.
OJ roams free.
Well, he's free for that particular crime. But
that was him getting sent to prison for that other thing was just like instant karma. Like nobody else would have gotten that sentence, but he deserved it. Just
speaking of Kardashians, that's the Kardashian.
Oh, yeah,
right.
They were related. The S asked, speaking of which, is anyone following Johnny Depp? We were talking about that on Keri's show earlier today. I haven't really been. I need to. I've been wanting to follow it, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Hi, Becky.
Have you guys been following that at all?
I've been listening to other people talk about it. I haven't been following the case, minute by minute, but I've been listening to other YouTubers talk about it. And I had already made up my mind. I could be biased because I love Johnny Depp so much that he was set up, and she's a bitch, and she's crazy. Johnny Depp was like one of the actors I grew up with as a kid, and he and Winona Ryder. And when Winona Ryder came out and said that he was one of the most gentle men she had ever met in her entire life, I'm like, no, he didn't do any of that. He didn't do any of that.
No, I agree. I don't know all the facts, but from the ones that I have heard, it seems like very clear cut.
I agree. Yeah, I don't have much to add. Nick Rekieta is doing amazing footage on it. He's doing live streams of every day at court. But yeah,
I love Rekieta a lot.
I think she's borderline.
Yeah. Amber Heard makes those of us who were, actually abused look bad. She deserves. I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, Becky, there are audio recordings of her. We talked about those this morning. They're really disturbing. And again, just like OJ, just like Jeffrey McDonald, just like, in my opinion, Michael Peterson, she thought that recording would make her look good. Like, what?
About as good as it made Alec Baldwin look.
Right.
When he was screaming and cussing at his daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, he's insane. It's a case I wanted to bring up, though, that reminds me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, since somebody mentioned OJ, or we mentioned just a second, I just watched for the first time on YouTube. There's a video called The Lost Confession. And this is something that was recorded with OJ back when his book, If I Did It, came out. And they didn't end up airing it. And so it sat in a vault all this time. And then Fox just got the rights to it and aired it in 2018. I didn't know it was out. I just watched it recently. But it's amazing. If you want to see the way a narcissist operates on camera, and again, the switching between different language tenses, when he's telling the hypothetical of what happened that night to the interviewer, he prefaces it really heavy-handed, going in like, this is it. I have to say, this is hypothetical. This is how it would have happened. Okay. Now it's the opposite of Michael Peterson. Michael Peterson was telling us what happened that night with his wife, but instead of using the past tense, like we were watching a movie, then we went outside, then she came inside. He put it in the past perfect. He was like, we would have normally watched a movie. We would have come outside. Okay, OJ does the opposite. He's supposedly telling us a hypothetical, but instead of saying, I would have gone to her house, I would have taken the knife, he does it all in the past tense. He switches into the past tense, like this is what happened, even though he sets it up hypothetical. He's like, well, and then I did this, and then she came out, and then I did this. And it's like, you're not telling us anything hypothetical, dude. You're telling us what happened. You are confessing.
And I think that Michael Peterson him saying that, for me, in my mind, that is the most compelling piece of evidence, because that's not what an innocent person says. He's thinking legally. He's thinking loopholes. He's thinking, what can I get caught in? Also, real quick, I want to say, hi, Leah. Hey, Mikey and Keri. Just wanted to drop in and say hi, and you're both so awesome. Aw. Any show you guys do together brightens the days of so many people out there. The haters just be jealous. Oh, I love you, Leah. Thank you so much. You are the freaking sweetest. Yeah.
Sorry, am I ranting? I'm sorry. I'm gonna
talk. No, not at all.
Here to do. I love your ranting. I still can't get over the fact that anyone who claims their innocence would write a book if I did it.
It's so sick.
I call my mom OJ because whenever we bicker, she's the apologizer, but she's like the best phony apologizer. That she's one of those people who's like, well, if I did anything to offend, I'm sorry. So I call her OJ if I did it.
If I did it. That's funny. Can I tell you one of the most, there's so many disturbing things about that OJ case, but one of the ones that bothered me the most learning about it was during the trial, they gave the jury, went through his house, okay? Gave them a tour of the house. Before they got the tour of the house, his legal team went in and redecorated everything so they would have the opposite impression of who he was. So he actually had posters of half-naked girls and swimsuits and himself with lots of bikini models. Yeah. Okay, they took all that art down, and what did they put up? African-American, or every little black girl with some African kente cloth. And they tried to make him look like this, strong black family man, and completely warp their sense of who this man was, and put up, family pictures and stuff. It's like, no, if you're going to take a tour of the house, the lawyers should not be able to do that. If the whole point of going to the house is to see what this guy was like, you shouldn't be able to go in and give it a facelift and give an inaccurate impression of who he is.
No, and that OJ case is such a perfect analogy for what we're living through in society right now. It is as if the powers that be were like, hey, let's take the defense's strategy from the OJ case and apply it to all of America. And it is as successfully manipulating us now as they were successful in manipulating the jury back then. That is exactly what has happened. That's what's happening. Everything's about race. When things are not at all about race, they make them about race, and that's how you manipulate.
I like the Duke lacrosse case. That's another one that comes to mind. That was, and then there was another that was literally staged by I want to say Al Sharpton, but I may be wrong. But
Jesse Jackson.
It was the one where the young lady, I can't even think of the name of it right now, where she said that she was assaulted. And it turns out she wasn't. It was all a sham.
The Master Girl?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There was another one with Al Sharpton also.
Yeah.
There was actually, I don't know if you guys saw that series, The People versus O.J. Simpson, but there was an amazing scene in it where they went through, they're in a bar, and Marcia Clark goes through what it would have involved for O.J.'s theory to have been true about the police did this and this and set this up. So she gave a whole explanation that's like the most ridiculous thing you ever heard of, like, this is what would have needed to happen for this to be plausible. He psychically knew this and this and this, and he went here and then there and took this here and before anything even happened.
I really like Marcia Clark.
It's like
I always have
the magic. What's that?
I have a huge amount of respect for Marcia Clark. I think she tried her best to get a honest verdict in that case.
I do in a odd sort of way for Johnny Cochran too, that he was really good at what he did.
Absolutely.
It's horrible, but smart.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think if you invoke the magic identity words and racialize it, you can manipulate people into anything. Like that case is just proof of it.
Absolutely.
You know what case I wanted to mention? It reminds me a little bit of the Menendez case. Those two are just, I think, for me, the most horrible ones. Have you guys heard about Michelle Carter?
Yeah.
No.
So there's a series out now, which I've been meaning to watch, or I want to watch it, but I just find it too upsetting that there's never a time where I want to watch it. But so she's this teenage girl, met this guy through some sort of online thing. I think they maybe met once or twice, but they had like an online relationship over text basically. And he was depressed and whatever. And via text, she basically convinced him to commit suicide.
Oh, yes. I know this case. Yeah.
It is the most horrible thing ever. And you read, there were thousands of texts, and you read the text messages from her. You just need to do it, Conrad. The more you push it off, the more it will eat at you. You're ready and prepared. All you have to do is turn the generator on to be free and happy. No more pushing it off, no more waiting. If you want it as bad as you say you do, it's time to do it today. And I think this is an important point too. There was literally a point where he got out of the car because he didn't want to die, and she convinced him to get back in.
Yeah. Machiavellian personality.
Yep.
You know what's funny too? I can't get over this. This was happening around the time, the very beginning of me waking up to politics and getting red pilled. So I was still surrounded by all these liberals, and you know, they were all totally against any sort of free speech. This was the one time, because I was furious about this case and saying lock her up and throw away the key. This was the one time that they were saying, oh, it's free speech. These people think nothing is free speech, but this is free speech to them. I'm like, bull fucking ass shit. It was actions. She convinced him to get back in the car.
It's like Manson. You know, Manson convinced them to do murder. She convinced this guy to do suicide. It's like a cult leader.
Yep.
It's just so horrible, especially like I've read all the text messages from him, and I just feel like I wish I could have known him or been friends. Like that sounds so fucking narcissistic to say, but it's just it was so preventable. You can hear it. Like he just wanted somebody to be like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Like,
and he found this dark personality instead of somebody who could pull him out.
And she wanted all the attention. She would quote things from. She was obsessed with Glee. She would watch the scene of, because the guy from Glee died. She would use exact quotes from her and mimic her performance to other people and put on a whole act. Someone asked what it's called. It's not a documentary. It's like a show, but it's called The Girl from Plainville.
Yeah.
I want to watch it, but it's just so horrible. So she's out now. She served like however many months she's out. I think.
So
bring back the penalty.
You're mentioning that she acted out a lot of things she saw from TV. Okay, so and this is so fascinating to me. So a lot of these disordered personality types, we've talked a lot about how they're wearing a mask that they construct. They're almost like skinwalkers. They pick up parts of people. So in the past, a lot of times they would pick up these pieces of people through shows that they watch on TV. Okay. And so they would construct these personalities that are based on like TV shows that they've watched. And I'm trying to remember what case there was a case I was watching recently where one of the investigators was talking about this. They were saying everything out of her mouth, this woman's mouth, and it'll come to me in a second, but everything was like recycled lines from a TV show. And because she didn't have a personality, it was all constructed. And this case, if I can, it happened before social media. So a person like that is going to have to rely on television shows to construct that mask if they don't know a lot of people in their personal life. But now with social media and people doing YouTube shows and whatever, now you've got these disordered personalities there's a whole plethora of people they can study and take from people, like real life people, and construct that mask, you know? And so it's really interesting to think about, because before people had so much access to other people, like real people, it was based on characters. So it was a little more obvious because you're like, hey, isn't that a line from the movie Speed? I think I've heard this somewhere before.
So you guys disagree that it was free speech?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was so funny. That was the one time I ever heard these people suddenly care about free speech. And this girl too, by the way, similar to Casey Anthony. Oh, she had an eating disorder. Her uncle touched her in the back. I don't care. That doesn't give you the right to
manipulate somebody into suicide
in the car.
Yeah.
And tell it. I mean, it's so obvious when you read the text. You just need to do it. Don't push it off. Do it today. Did you do it yet? She kept asking, did you do it yet today? And he would literally say to her, I don't know. I feel bad. I don't want my family to be sad. I don't want to leave them alone. It was so preventable.
Okay, I know which person it was, which true crime case it was I was thinking of, where they were talking about how she had a personality that was constructed based on TV characters. It was Diane Downs. Do you remember her?
Oh, absolutely.
I remember that name, but nothing else.
She's the one that killed her. She killed her kids. She basically killed them because the man that she wanted to be with didn't want to be with her because she had kids.
Just like Susan Smith.
Susan freaking Smith.
Oh, that was the one from To Die For, right?
No.
That was the one in South Carolina.
Where
she let her car roll into the lake and drowned her 2 kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and, I remember her.
And Diane Downs did something similar. She
took Idaho.
She drove her kids out on a dirt road and got out of the car and shot them.
Yeah.
And then said that an intruder,
a fuzzy-headed guy, a bushy guy,
had stopped the car and shot her kids. But the thing is, in her interviews, they're so unsettling. And this was in the 80s, but you can watch some of these.
Smith?
No, this is Diane Downs.
Diane Downs. I covered both of these stories on my channel, Mike, if you want to go watch.
I will.
Yeah. But Diane Downs, she constructed, like, a lot of things that she said in her interviews were like lines from TV shows. And it was sort of this, and reportedly she didn't have a lot of friends. So if she's that type of antisocial personality, like sociopath or something, who's constructing this mask, this human mask of what they wear to the public, she's necessarily probably constructing it from entertainment, because she's not interacting with a lot of actual people.
There was a part where the prosecutor was well, not the prosecutor, but investigator was having her reenact the crime for the video, and she was having fun with it. It was just the most cringy thing to watch because she was enjoying herself.
Yes. She was like flirting with him almost.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And did you see, well, you covered it. So did you get that clip of her where the interviewer's asking her, because she maintains even after conviction, it wasn't her, there was some guy, the vanishing.
The interview with Oprah and the woman that wrote the book, Small Sacrifices. Oprah had them both on.
Oh, okay.
And they were arguing, and she just,
There's one interview where she's talking about her daughter, and she's telling her version of events, the story, right? And she said something so unsettling and sad, if it were real, if she were really telling the truth. She says, and I see my daughter, Kathy, or I can't remember her daughter's name. Chrissy dying and bleeding out. And that's something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And then she smiles. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
It's like,
and she got pregnant again before she went into prison, and they took the baby away from her and put her up for adoption. And that daughter ended up finding her years later and finding out who her mom was. And so you can imagine now that the 2 surviving kids, the oldest girl and the boy was crippled. He was paralyzed as a result of getting shot in the back. But the 2 prosecutors adopted. They were a married couple, and they adopted them. So they were raised by the prosecutors. And then she got pregnant again. I don't know what depraved man wanted to stick it in that crazy bitch, but evidently there's a market for everything.
Oh, well,
she was able to get pregnant again really
yeah,
quickly.
well, she said in an interview, she was like, kids, it's really easy to get pregnant, and kids give me this and give me this and give me this, and so I just decided, because my kids are dead, so I decided I just have some more, because they make me happy, and they make me that. It's such a narcissistic way of talking about kids. Like, just replace them.
Yeah, she was a definite sociopath or psychopath, whichever one, has no feeling whatsoever.
I think they're pretty much interchangeable now.
Yeah.
I think.
You know who's an interesting one? You made me think of that because you said Oprah. Have you guys heard of Betty Broderick?
Yes.
You know what's interesting? So I only knew the highlights of it, that she shot her ex-husband or husband, whatever he was. So I watched the series about it. Going into it, I'm dead set on the fact that I'm going to be on her side, because I'm like, she must have been abused. He would beat her. He would do this. And I'm watching it. He did nothing. Like, he was a dick, but on the scale of shitty husbands, he was very low on it. He never laid a hand on her. He never did anything. So, like, she totally did this to herself.
You want my take on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a relationship between two different types of personality disorders. I think he was a narcissist and she was borderline. And and in the end, who proved crazier? She did. But he was definitely, he was a serial cheater, liar, made her feel like dirt. Doesn't deserve murder. Or any of the crazy. She drove her car into the front of the house. She used to call and scream profanities at the kids and at him. And
see, if he was like beating her up or something, I'd be like, okay, that's one thing. But
women they sympathized with her. You're right about that Oprah interview. She really painted herself as a victim of male abuse, and had a lot of sympathy from people because of it, of especially from women who felt mistreated by their husbands, and sort of there was that tongue-in-cheek thing, just like there was with the woman who cut the guy's penis off,
Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt. Okay, there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek support.
On her,
right? Yeah, I think so. I think it was something similar. But so women were kind of like, well, maybe got what he deserved, kind of thing. That attitude was very prevalent for both of those cases, I think. Don't you, Tracy?
Yeah. It's always hard when you have like parents that kill children, any kind of familicide, where you're always going to follow either one spectrum or the other. You're going to side with the victim, or you're going to side with the perpetrator for those same reasons. And I saw somebody in the chat mention Andrea Yates when we were talking about Susan Smith and Diane Downs. That's a little different. She was suffering from severe postpartum depression, and as well as some other mental
psychosis too.
And no one realized that she needed help that much. And then she got involved with religious fanatics, and then ended up drowning her children to protect them from the evil in the world, that the world was about to end. And that could have been prevented if somebody had gotten her the help that she needed. So I don't think she was in control of her faculties when that happened.
And she, not, how do I put this? Not to say I respect her, but as much respect as you can have for someone who killed their kids.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I respect the fact that she, for many years, has been able to, I think, leave or have a review, and she's refused to and said, I'm where I belong. So yeah, she's one that I think, like you said, wasn't, I don't know.
I agree. I think she had something that was treatable, postpartum depression. It wasn't like a personality disorder, in my opinion. I'm just a layman, but as opposed to someone like, there's a lot of Texas ones on my list, by the way. Clara Harris. Remember Clara Harris, who ran over her cheating husband in the car and kept driving? Yeah.
Did she kill him, or did she just
killed him?
Okay.
Yeah,
she broke some stuff.
She confronted him outside of the hotel where he was with his mistress. She had their daughter with her. And then she gunned it and she claimed temporary insanity because she said she wasn't planning on running him over. But that, to me, that's not the same as that's not postpartum depression. That's not psychosis. That's an inability to control your impulsive anger.
I can sympathize with crimes of passion more than any other kind of crime because I've been to the point of snapping before in my life. So I can understand that. I didn't, thank goodness. But of all the crimes that we talk about, I can sympathize with those perpetrators a little bit more, but that doesn't make it right. So yeah, it's, that's not an excuse. I lost my temper is not an excuse.
Right.
Brooke just said something. I'm going to admit the one female serial killer I absolutely can sympathize with is Eileen Wuornos. I can too. I agree with that.
I was about to say she's the only female serial killer I know of, but maybe I'm forgetting. There aren't a lot of them, are there?
I feel like some of them just didn't get the opportunity. No, but I think there aren't a lot of them because men and women are evil in different ways.
Right.
You see a lot of these female cases are more the manipulation, the snapping, the mental illness, whereas men are just like, I'm going to fucking kill a bunch of people.
I agree. I think women are more well represented in crimes of passion, killing of the children, that sort of thing, and then men tend to be like truly when they go off, it's an evil go off.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
I just remembered one other one.
Say, hi, Thin White Axe. I love you. You have been with me for so long and so supportive. So you're amazing. Yeah, it was a birthday present. I love it.
Little ragamuffin says, Keri, come to Texas, move here. We also, Keri, we got a lot of crazy here in Texas. There are a lot of murders.
We've got worse crazy in New York, obviously.
We got some crazy here in Tennessee too.
Yeah. Okay, one other female serial killer.
Is it her?
Oh, hey. Allegedly. No, Dorothea Puente. Do you guys know this woman? Okay, so
I know the name. I don't know the case very well.
She was an older woman. Okay, I think she was in her 50s, but she dressed like she was in her 80s. That was her disguise. Everyone thought she was a kindly old lady. And she ran a boarding house, and she took in all these people, the unwanted of society, who had social security checks that she would have signed into her name, and she would kill them and bury them in the backyard. And she was linked to 9 murders. She was only convicted of a few of those, I think. But they excavated her backyard and just dug up body after body of all these people who had been missing. And she was like this little old, like gray haired. And when they found out how old she was, one of the women who helped lead detectives to her, because this woman really cared about this homeless guy that she had placed in Dorothea's care and kept following up. She said in an interview that when she learned how old Dorothea was, she was shocked because she's like, she's my age, she's in her 50s, but she presents like she's this frail woman in her 80s.
Hello, Suicide Hotline. I'd like to place an order. Hillary Clinton. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Crash. Question for Keri: Are sociopaths redeemable in the Christian sense?
No. I'm kidding. I can't speak for Christians. I'm going to speak from my opinion. No, I don't think that they're. I think they are thoroughly rotted by evil, and I do believe. Yes, I agree that. This is where I'm going to get into some trouble, and some Christians are going to disagree with me. Yes, theoretically, God, everyone can make that choice to beg for forgiveness, to take responsibility, to plead for mercy from God. But that requires free will, and sociopaths are never going to do that. They are never going to exercise their free will to do that. I believe they're like in the Bible where the verse about how God has hardened Pharaoh's heart. I believe they have hardened hearts. And I think there are some people who are so thoroughly overtaken by evil that I don't see them coming back from that. I mean, look at Ted Bundy, okay, before he was executed, he had an interview with James Dobson, and he talked about I think he even sort of, you should look this up because I'm not sure, I don't want to misspeak, but I think he sort of talked about having this experience of, you know, confession and am I right, Tracy? Do you remember? Didn't he do that at the end of his life? I just didn't buy
he
it.
and Dahmer too found Christ.
I didn't buy it.
No. I think sociopath, I mean, Dexter does not exist in the world. There is no good sociopath. They all, you know, there's no sociopath using those tendencies for good. That's a figment. And I'm talking of, and I've discussed this with my mother-in-law, who is a RN, has worked in psychiatry a lot of her life. And she says, with those kinds of people, you just have to lock them away. She said, they're not ever going to be fit to Roman society. You know, it's a sad thing, but it's true.
And avoid them too, because like a lot of sociopaths don't murder anyone, but they can still do some damage.
A lot of them. They become politicians. They become
they become YouTubers.
But yeah, I don't think those people can be rehabilitated, like you said. Like they're predators. They lack a conscience. There's something fundamentally disordered. Their personality disorders used to be called character disorders, I think, for a reason. They are thoroughly, they're missing something that allows, and I think it's the will. I think it's the desire to have that redemptive moment and to beg for mercy. Am I saying that everyone who's murdered, no one who's murdered can have that moment? No, not at all. I'm talking very specifically about this small percentage of people that you would call sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. Like, I think that those people on the very far end of that spectrum, they lack humility. They don't have the ability to say, I did something wrong, or to feel remorse about it. They don't have a problem sleeping at night with what they've done.
This is horrible for me to make a movie reference right now, but we had that conversation when the first time she had ever seen the movie The Good Son with Elijah Wood. And
that movie!
And she had never seen it. She had never seen it, so we watched it. And then at the end, I asked, did she make the right choice by dropping her own son? And she says, yes, he was a lost cause. Mm-hmm. You know, she said that was the most merciful thing that the mother could have done, was drop him. And I'm like, wow. And then she went into the whole thing that you can't rehabilitate those types of people. He would have kept on killing.
Have you seen the documentary? This is also on YouTube. Have you seen the documentary called Child of Rage?
No, I haven't, but I'll look it up.
It's so interesting. I want to say it was the late 80s or early 90s. And it's a documentary talking about psychopathy in children. And they actually feature this little girl in it who it is chilling. Her parents, now there's nothing in her environment that would cause this. And I think it's a nature and nurture thing. Sometimes there's something in a person's nature, and then the environment, the nurture stokes it. But sometimes, absent even of those environmental factors, there's just something in that person's nature. And this little girl in the documentary, even at the beginning, they're asking her, the interviewer's asking her, you know, are your parents afraid of you? And she's like, yes, you know, and she's, I don't know, like 6 or 7. And they're like, why are they afraid of you? She's like, because I'll hurt them, and I'll hurt my little brother. And, you know, I'm just stone cold matter of fact. And they're like, do they lock you in your room at night? Yeah, they lock me in the room. Why? Because I would hurt them at night. And she says, they ask her, like, why would you hurt them at night? And she said, because I don't want them to see me do it. I just want them to feel me do it. It's like, so like, oh God, like there's something wrong, you know, and she's a child. I'm sorry, I'm taking this off track, Mikey.
Oh, no.
Adam's mentioning the movie The Bad Seed, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And the book, too.
I just watched the remake. It was terrible.
The remake was horrible.
The Lifetime movie.
The original that was with Patty McCormick was just awesome.
Yes.
What I wanted to say is that most sociopaths don't kill anyone, don't physically harm someone. A lot of them are very intelligent, but I think the most important thing, it was a blessing when I finally had read this book, The Sociopath Next Door. I think it's so important for people to be able to identify them and also learn to trust yourself and listen to yourself so you can avoid these people. Because we were talking about this before, name a serial killer, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, they dated. Just, you meet someone and you just automatically take them as not being someone who's horrible. But, I don't know if I talked about this before, but I was in a relationship once. He gave me a ring. I thought this was like the person I would marry. I got love bombed like you wouldn't believe. Like every line that could have been in any generic movie was used on me. It was surreal. And then one day he's like, "Oh, actually, I was lying. I don't actually love you." But the thing is, then I ended up hearing from multiple exes of his. Every word was the same. He did the same thing. Everything was the same. And so you encounter these people and you wonder what's wrong with them. Why? So I think being able to identify qualities and traits as sociopathic is very helpful in life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't believe I'm not the only one who knows this movie. Have you ever seen the movie Mikey? I watched it as a kid and I just watched it again a few nights ago. It is, oh my God, it's cheesy wonderfulness. It's killer kid named Mikey. I love him. Have you guys heard of, so they did a film of it. It was a short film. It's on YouTube. I don't remember the name. I'll look it up, but it had to be like the hardest thing to watch I've ever seen. It was a true story. The victim's name was James Bulger. He was, it was in the UK.
Yes. Oh yeah. I covered, I did a whole series on Evil Kids. That was one of the ones that I
watched that.
Covered. Yeah.
Oh, it's so horrible. He was a little kid, and these two, I forget how old they were. Were they like young teenagers or something?
Yeah, like they were. I want to say they were
preteens.
Yeah, 11, 12.
Viciously killed him. Oh, it was horrible.
Because they could. Because they just wanted to do it. It was just all a curiosity.
Isn't that the one they walked him out of the shopping center?
Yeah. And so many people saw these kids. It could have been prevented at so many points along the way, and it just one of those things. The same with I can't think of it. There was a couple of Canadian children, like one. She was dating this guy that thought he was a werewolf, and they ended up slaughtering her entire family. It happened in Medicine Hat, Alberta. I covered it, but she ended up slaughtering her entire family to be with this guy. And then there was another that was a repeat offender that was also in Ontario, where they so the United States does not have the lock on evil children by any means.
Wow.
Keri, though, I want to hear about, so you were I hadn't heard of this, but who is the candy lady that you were telling me about?
Oh, so there's 2 series in development right now. One's going to be for HBO. That's the one that's being filmed in my town, or part of it was being filmed in my town. There's also a made-for-TV movie called A Killing in a Small Town, which is free on YouTube with Barbara Hershey. Yeah. But yeah, it's the Candy Montgomery.
With Jessica Biel? Or is that a different Candy?
I don't know who's in it. But anyway, yeah, there's 2. One I think is Hulu and one is HBO. For some reason, they both have suddenly there's competing docuseries on this crime from 1980. But yeah, so Candy Montgomery and Betty Gore, and the killing in a small town. It happens in a small town in Texas. These were friends. I put that word in quotes because how much of a friend could you be if one of them, Candy Montgomery, was having an affair with the other one's husband, with Betty Gore's husband, and they both went to church together. They both had small kids. She went over to Betty Gore's house one day, Candy did, and ended up murdering her with an axe. Taking a shower in her bathroom and then going back to church. And when they found that it was her, she said that it was just self-defense. She says that Betty Gore picked up the axe and started coming at her because Betty had found out about the affair, and that Betty was attacking her, and she managed to get the axe from her and killed her. And should I do spoiler alert since they're making a TV show or what? I've already told a lot.
I want to hear about it.
If
anyone doesn't want to know, just like
she got
I'll wave
off.
my arms when
She got off. She got off. She murdered her friend with an axe and got off.
How?
Self-defense, she said.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
How though? Did they just look at her and think, oh, she couldn't have done, like, she looks innocent?
Who knows what juries are. I mean, they let OJ off. I mean, yeah, you would think you're going into a trial where you tried to cover up the fact that you did it. You went back to church and after taking a shower, pretended like you didn't see, that nothing happened. You told the cops you were going to help in any way you could. You talked to the husband and comforted him, and you were trying to help with the investigation. Like, you were hiding the fact that you did it. You didn't come forward and say, I did this. It was awful, but it was self-defense. You would think going into that kind of trial where they know you did it, you admit you did it, and it was brutal, and you were having an affair with her husband, you would think you would get a guilty verdict.
Jesus.
But no. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh,
I just ruined. Now you don't have to watch the HBO series.
Spoilers over. There's so many of them that it's hard. Somebody just asked, has anyone watched the thing about Pam?
I just started it.
Same. I watched the first episode. I need to catch up. And that's a case I don't know anything about. That one, don't spoil for me. Because I don't
spoil it. I don't know anything about it.
I love Renee Zellweger, though. What was that other one that you were telling me about? Or was it Tracy? I think you were telling me about one that I hadn't heard of.
Which one?
Forgot.
Let's see. The most current cases that I've just covered, the Vallow Daybell case, which is the big case that occurred out in Idaho.
What's that?
Oh, Lord, it's a whole saga. There's a whole Vallow universe.
Oh, wait, is this
I think I've done about 20 or 30 videos on it, and they're all very in depth because that's just how much this stuff piling on. But basically, you had this man named Chad Daybell. He was a Mormon apocalyptic author. He wrote these Mormon Into the World books, and he got involved with this woman named Lori Vallow, who, in my opinion, is a classic narcissist sociopath. And they basically had it in their heads that they were what they call seekers, that everything he's written about the end of the world is true, and that God has tapped them to clear out the evil in the world so that Jesus can return again. And so basically her 2 children are dead. Her ex-husband is dead. Her brother is dead. And her brother was like this avenging angel that like did the hits for them. And
his ex-wife is dead.
Yeah, his ex-wife is dead, asphyxiated in her sleep because she had to go on and serve God beyond the veil. Just weird stuff. And I've been covering this for it's how my channel got so many subscribers. It's the case that built my channel. I have to sadly say that, but I read all of his books. I went in and just read them and analyzed all of his books and did summaries for my subscribers. Just freaky, weird, demented shit. And they did a Lifetime movie about it recently called Doomsday Mom.
What is it?
Doomsday Mom. It's a Lifetime original.
Oh, I love my Lifetime movies.
And the trial is now set. She has just now been deemed competent to stand trial in Idaho. Idaho does not have not guilty by reason of insanity. So she just could not stand trial. And she's finally been ruled competent to stand trial. So their joint trial, is scheduled to start January of 2023.
It reminds me of, have you ever seen the movie Frailty?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I don't remember that movie, but one thing about Lori Vallow, which I'm sure you covered, is the footage of her that was taken after her brother had just killed her ex-husband.
Yeah.
And she's standing outside the house, like laughing and giggling and like flirting with the cop, sort of.
Yep.
And it's just not normal. Again, it's just inappropriate for what just happened. And
like I said, Alex was the brother, the one that killed her ex-husband, supposedly attempted to kill both Chad Daybell's wife and Brandon Boudreaux, who was his married to their niece, because they were basically not having any part of it. So he tried to kill them, and then he mysteriously died of a lung ailment that he had never been diagnosed with before. And turns out that the woman that he married was doing gay conversion therapy on him, and was also tied to the Love Is One cult. So this thing just keeps piling on. And he died of blood clots in the lungs, and because this woman worked in like metals, like minerals and metals, they think maybe he was poisoned. She has like qualified immunity from the prosecution, so she's going to sing like a bird, and I can't wait to hear her testimony.
Woo!
Truth is stranger than fiction. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of those where I was trying to stay on top of it, and I was telling my husband the details of it bit by bit. And that's one of those where when you start to dive into it, I want to go watch your videos now, because the more you talk about, they're like, what? Like, and then another murder, and then another murder, and then the freaky religious beliefs on top of it. And just,
if you want to know about the religious belief, I have playlists of his books. But
I'm gonna have a whole marathon of you tonight.
That sums up the entire crime is a video I did about 2 years ago. It's called "Death Follows Her," Lori Vallow. That's the one you should start with. And then I do a deep dive on every single person in the Daybell universe. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of
them. Random question. Whoa, what's that?
Are those your cats?
Yes.
Oh my god!
It sounds like a murder.
Yeah. I thought it was something I clicked.
No, they were fighting, and they knocked over these 2 pink flamingo figurines we have in here.
Yeah. It sounded like somebody.
That's the reason I just went.
Random question. Mikey, are you bilingual? I thought you spoke another language with your mom. Sì, parlo italiano, ma mia mamma parla una versione pazzo di italiano, si chiama napoletano. Yeah, I speak Italian. My mom speaks Napoletan, which my grandfather spoke. It's like I don't know if anyone speaks it now. It's sort of like what you hear people American Italian speaking when they say like mozzarella or gabagool. That's Napoletano. So I guess I'm trilingual. Wait, there was another one. Here we go. Great-delicious. Question for Tracy. Do you do any shows on crimes where you talk to the family to bring the story forward for awareness? You should do that if not. I like that.
I've interviewed a few people. But I haven't. I'm not really big enough to be able to get in front of, actual victims' families. I've made offers, but I've interviewed like Ron Miscavige. He is the current leader of Scientology's father. I've interviewed his father, who escaped from Scientology. I've not put it out on the channel yet. I've interviewed him because I met him through atheist circles, but that would be the only one. But I covered a whole lot of small unknown cases, like the there's a couple of cases that I've covered that didn't get a whole lot of coverage that I think should have gotten coverage, and I've done a few of those. But I like to bring awareness, and I donate most of my ad revenue to victims and stuff like that. So
you're amazing. Someone asked if we talked about Woody Allen. Not yet. We're gonna get to him. I have thoughts. No, I like that idea though. You should do that. I mean, I guess a lot of them don't want to speak, but have I told you that I'm designated a suppressive person by the Church of Scientology?
I'm
so proud of that.
That is a life goal.
I'm so proud of that.
You're on a list.
I had to fuck with them. They are nuts. They followed me with a camera, and this was years ago, like 7-8 years ago. They followed me down the street with a camera in my face. And I was like, I'm not afraid of them. So I was like posing for them and shit. And she goes, "See you on the internet." I still don't know what that meant. I'm still waiting to see my head on top of like some nasty porn or something.
Creepy.
What is so Christian? Is it Christian Bale? It was an American Psycho. I read an interview where he said that he based his entire character's demeanor off of Tom Cruise. Some of the weird things that Tom Cruise would do in interviews. And if you watch it, you see it. And I'm like, wow.
I totally believe that. There were interviews with some of his co-stars at the time, because he was unknown at the time. He wasn't Christian Bale yet, right? And some of the other actors in that movie said that they all thought he was a terrible actor because of the way he played the character. They were just like, can this guy not act? And it wasn't until they saw the finished film that they realized what a genius he was with that portrayal of someone who is, yes, of course he comes off like a bad actor because he's playing a bad actor. He's playing a sociopath who's acting human and kind of missing the mark, you know?
Have any of you watched Leah Remini's docuseries on Scientology? Yes, I've seen it. I love her. I love Mike Rinder. I love the whole show. It's so good. I wish they would do more. And what was cool, I wish they would do more. They did a couple episodes about other cults. They did Jehovah's Witnesses. They did some other one. What's it called? The Nation of Islam. Yeah. Those are some fucking crazy bitches.
Mikey. I'm going to have to go at the 2-hour mark, which is in a few minutes. I'm so sorry, because I wanted to hear the Woody Allen stuff.
Yes, let's get to it real quick. So, okay. So Woody Allen, not a murder, but one second, I have my notes. I have been, not just because I love him. By the way, if you guys have any like super chats, get him in. So I have taken so much shit for years because I would stake my life on the fact of Woody Allen's innocence. Mia Farrow was the original Amber Heard. So much worse. This bitch, I think she adopted 14 kids. 3 of them, either 3 or 4, committed suicide or died desolate under mysterious circumstances. Multiple of her kids spoke out on the abuse. So first of all, people connect Woody Allen to this. So the allegation is that he molested her daughter Dylan. So they connect him to that because of his relationship with Soon-Yi. They didn't even meet until Soon-Yi was 20. She was never his daughter. Mia Farrow and Woody Allen were never married. They never lived together. So yes, it's weird, that part of it, but I think the fact that they're still married and have raised kids says something. So here's the thing. Let me go to my notes. What I think one of the most important points, Mia Farrow wrote a note. So she was obviously mad about that, about him having this relationship. And Soon-Yi hated Mia Farrow and had spoken about how abusive she was, how mentally abusive she was, because she had her 1 or 2 like golden children and everyone else were just like Cinderella, basically. So Mia Farrow had told one of her shrinks that she intended to get back at Woody Allen with something. She wrote a letter that she passed around to the neighbors accusing Woody Allen of molesting her daughter Dylan months before it supposedly happened. I believe that was in June. It supposedly happened on August 4th. There is not one detail of this that matches up. They claim that and it happened in the attic by the electric train set. Not only was there no electric train set, there were no outlets in the attic. There were 2 investigations. Both determined that he never did anything. The hospital that examined her determined he didn't do anything. He refused to settle. The statute of limitations has still not run out. She has until she's 48 that they can take him to court. Never done that. He's passed 7 polygraphs. Everyone agreed that she was coached. Yeah, I think the main thing is that I feel bad for the daughter because I think she really believes it. I think that there are certain, people want to call this like toxic femininity. I think there are certain types of jilted ex-wives or mothers who take their personality disorders out on the kids, and she probably coached this kid into thinking that it happened.
One minor correction. Woody met Soon-Yi when she was 10. That's in numerous interviews that she's done. But she said that he wasn't a big part of her life, and he didn't live with them. But it wasn't when she was 20. It was when she was younger.
What was it when she was 20 then? That's weird.
I'm not sure, but
the judge's testimony, or is it that her birth year is in dispute? There was something when she was 20.
But I agree with you, and you sent me this. I don't know if you remember the name of the documentary, but it was sort of independently produced by a YouTuber.
Woody Allen is innocent.
It totally changed my mind, and you're right. There, all the evidence you talked about of her deciding after she learned about him, being intimately involved with Sunyi, she was going to repay him with this revenge thing. And one of the things in that, which was so disturbing, I don't know if you can pull up a picture of it, or we couldn't show the screen, but people can look it up. That Valentine, do you remember that Valentine that she sent him, or she handed it to him? And it's a heart, like an old-fashioned Valentine with lace and stuff on it, and it's a picture of her and the kids, and there's a pair of scissors in each kid's face, and then a steak knife in her face, and she gave that disturbing thing to him. Like, just, I don't know, that just bothered me a lot.
Even her own custody lawyer came out and said she doesn't believe this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I think this needs its own spin-off. But
I think, for the record, I think he's a creeper. I think he does have is interested in girls who are younger than 18. I think that some of the character that he played in, which movie was it, where he's dating the girl who's 16? Manhattan. I think some of that is based on his real life attraction to this girl at 16. I think that he I just think he's kind of a creepy dude. But what I did was I let that influence my opinion of these allegations of him molesting a toddler. And when I went back and looked at the evidence as laid out, again, like I said, documentaries can present things with a certain slant. And there's one that's out, I think was it HBO did one that's very slanted in favor of Mia Farrow's allegations. And then then there's this one on YouTube that shows you all this stuff that doesn't get included that really, and it changed my mind about it. But
let me super chat. Thank you so much, Crash. Mikey, you should sell a t-shirt, Scientology Suppressor. I love that. I feel like, Keri, we're kind of like Leah Remini's of the woke.
That's why I'm interested in cult documentaries. Really, I mean, one of the reasons is trying to understand the, psychology of people falling in with a group and letting that become their identity to the point where they're willing to believe ridiculous things.
I want to we should get into on another one, but I can't believe I never thought I would say this, but I finally started researching the facts about the Michael Jackson accusations. I think he didn't do it. I think he was innocent. I never thought I would say that.
You're gonna have to sell me on that one later.
I don't know. I don't feel as certain as I do about Woody Allen, but there's a lot of shady, suspicious shit. We should do another one.
Yeah. I'm sorry I have to go. You guys don't have to break up the party.
No, it's cool. Let me just say, you guys, I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Tracy, anything other than your channel where people can find you?
That's the main place. I'm not as active on Facebook, and I'm not really active at Twitter at all. So just YouTube.
Keri, everyone needs to go to subscribe to her new channel. It's amazing.
Deprogram. Mikey was just on today. Tracy, I'm so happy I got to meet you. I'm going to go binge watch your channel.
I'm so excited I got to meet you too finally.
Somebody in the chat cleared that up, Mikey. He says, Mia asked Woody to take Sunyi to a basketball game at age 20. That's when they first started to talk.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, thank you guys so much for hanging out, joining us. Thursday, I'm going to have a live show, like an in-person show from my living room. It's my birthday. It's going to be Peter Feliciano, Johnny Call, my mom, and my dad. Kind of like our version of Wayne's World.
I love that you're doing a birthday show because you historically, since I've known you, not been a big fan of your birthday. So this is a way to take it, own it, control it, have fun with it.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like it's like one of those movies where I'm trying to run from it. Like it follows. If you guys are in Texas or can get to Texas, come hang out with Keri and I this weekend at Myth Informed. Link is below. Get tickets. I love you guys.
Love you too. Thank you so much for having me on.
Love you guys. You're the best. Thanks for coming on. All right, we'll talk soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.